Hello, everybody. We are here today to talk about the 1992 film Boomerang.
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
We want to thank all of the supporters who helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation via Cash App, or you can head on over to patreon.com/axiomamnesia to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber. So we have Marcus and Jacqueline, right? Eddie Murphy and Robin Givins' character. So let's talk about it. I got a question for you. So how does Jacqueline's character really challenge these traditional gender roles in romantic relationships?
So really what happened was what we hear in our music nowadays, in the black music. Mm-hmm. It's really the embodiment of this sort of idea of where like, men are, because you had the nothing going on but the rent and all that sort of thing that was coming around. So that was kind of like
no romance without finance.
Yeah, you gotta have a job, And
Eddie Murphy talks about this
exactly.
right in his stand-up.
That's exactly where I get it from. But yeah, that all those songs and stuff, and that was just kind of where the zeitgeist, right? So then we get to the movie, and then those are the characters that are being written out, right? Mm-hmm. Even by men. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the thing is that it just shows, and that is one reason that women are gonna relate to it and really attach to it, right? Because you got this guy, and then he basically get a dose of his own medicine, right? And it's supposed to really be cautionary for the men, not to say that, women, y'all need to go and be like men, right? Mm-hmm. It's supposed to say, look, if you look at it from this other perspective, then maybe you shouldn't be doing these things and, playing with people's feelings like and emotions.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Because when the movie opens, like we see Marcus playing these women off. He's got his secretary sending like 7 or 8 different women. Sounds like they're of all kind of different backgrounds. The same note with some flowers or whatever, you're the only one I'm thinking about, whatever, just some mess.
Right. And it makes it like, but the problem is that it makes it acceptable because we don't like that character, right? Mm-hmm. So you're a womanizer, you're doing this and that. So we want something bad to happen to him. So then we cheer on the act and the person, right? Who inflict this upon Marcus.
Yes. So one thing that, since it's timely, that we should talk about is Sela in the comments says, all of these women were working, though. They didn't need a man's money to pay their rent, which is like the independence. And I think part of the table turning, right? Jacqueline is Marcus's boss. She comes in and she's over him, right? And so what she really winds up doing is like subverting this typical romantic comedy type of archetype. So she's not like these traditional female leads. She exhibits these traits that are often associated with the male characters, right? She's detached. She's controlling in these relationships. She doesn't seem to care, right? We always imagine the women in these movies to be, and because that's how they're depicted, right? Emotional. Oh my gosh, you did this. Jacqueline was like, whatever. Listen, baby, I'll get with you in 3 weeks. She said, my man will call your man and then they'll set something up. And he is fiending by the time, once he gets a little taste of Jacqueline, he wants it. He like, when can we get it? He comes in the room when in her office and he's like, hey, baby, we on the job.
Right. But like, so remember the call he had with somebody earlier and he was like, next week or whatever?
He said, a massage sounds good. How about next week? And I was watching, I was like, next week? You ain't got but no times to tell me something about some next week. Nah.
So then that happened. But then when it got with Jacqueline, right? Then she was like, on the 12th.
3 weeks. He was like, 3 weeks. And he didn't say no. He was just like, I guess I'll take what I can get. He was like sick. And then when the 3 weeks came, she stood him up.
Oh, man.
He said, I paid $200 for these tickets to, some live event or whatever.
But man, I thought something might have happened to you.
He was calling around. Is she made the flight? Was she on the flight? Like he was just down bad behind Jacqueline. But she knew exactly what she was doing from the beginning. What she was doing to him and all of that stuff. And so this is the art, because actually what Marcus says in the beginning when he's talking to his two friends, Tyler and Gerard, they're all, chit-chatting with each other. And he's like, hey, you all don't get women, blah, 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 because you don't pay attention to women. But see, he pays attention to women because he's attempting to manipulate, right? So he knows women very well. He's figured out the psychology. He's figured out how to just keep them. But see, there are not nearly as many women who behave the way that Jacqueline was behaving.
Exactly. So you're really not paying attention. You're going with what you expect to happen, right? So you could be like, oh, you form a stereotype, right? You form a caricature of what a woman is. So then you just go by the book. Oh, I do this, I say this, I do that. And then when somebody does something different, you don't even notice that it's happening.
Yeah.
And even if you do, you have no play for that. You ain't got no play. So it's like, oh.
You just don't know what to do. Like, she just had him all messed up. And so, but this is the mistake. The mistake he made was that he thought that must mean like, oh, because I can't get enough. She's manipulated me. He doesn't even realize he's being manipulated, really. Not in the beginning. And he's like, oh, she's just perfect. Yeah. She might be Miss whatever his last name is. But he's like, this could be the wife.
This is him trying to get, as they said, gather her up, trying to gain control too. Mm-hmm. Where you been? I've been waiting all day. I've been waiting for you. I spent $200 trying to get her back in line because you need to do things a certain way so that I can have the upper hand here.
Yes.
Want us to cover your favorite movie ASAP? For a limited time, a $25 donation gets you a deep dive on demand, a 30-minute discussion on any film you choose, delivered within about 30 days.
It's easy. Step 1, send $25 via our website, axiom.app, or Cash App, $Axiom Amnesia, links below. Step 2, tell us your movie and email. And step 3, watch your deep dive on demand with your name listed as executive producer.
Lock in your deep dive on demand today and hurry. Spots are limited and a $25 minimum donation amount won't last.
This offer is not valid for filmmakers or distributors, subject to availability and terms apply. And Paris and Kaysen in the chat are having me laughing because they're talking about how he was like, can you check and see if there's been any accidents between JFK and Midtown? Can you check? He was calling the cops. He was looking everywhere. And he was truly like just upset by the time she finally shows up way late. And she's like, my meeting ran long. I had to take a later flight, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, well, you couldn't go. She deliberately is playing him off. And I mean, she probably was in town the whole time. She probably had a list of side dudes she needed to see. She had probably already did that, which is why she showed up at the door. And he was like,
"Oh, it's extra today."
With shut up. Which is why she showed up at the door and didn't have the no. She said, "You know what? I'm not even gonna have to get all the way dressed.
I'm not even gonna put no clothes back on.
Let me just get this trench coat and come over here to Marcus because he's easy work." And when she went over there, and then she's like, "Oh, she said, well, maybe I should just go. I'm going to go." Now we looking at her like, no, she is not going anywhere. And he fell for it. He was like, well, no, you ain't got to go. And then she's like, oh, you forgive me or whatever. She snatched that coat open slowly. And he was just like, oh, you knew before you came over here. But it didn't stop him, even though he's now realizing that he's getting played. It still didn't stop him. He couldn't resist. His toes curled after what had gone down. Then she leaves $200 on the nightstand and she's getting up like in the middle of the night to leave. He like, where you going? And she's like, oh, I got an early meeting. I got to go. And then when he looks over after she walks, she just treated him like a whole ew.
Bruh.
She really did. She really did. And from a woman's point of view watching that, because I remember when I watched this before, I was like cheering. I was like,
you were snapping and everything.
That's what you do. That's what you do. Let him know. Right, girl. Because you hate how you see that it's always the woman falling victim to these charlatans, So this is what happens. But kind of to get back to the question, though, how does Marcus's reaction to her behavior sort of reveal kind of the societal double standards? Because how do y'all look at Jacqueline? She's judged much more harshly, I think, than a man who might have been doing the same thing.
What? You think so?
Yeah. They're like, oh, no, she out there. She maybe not by the women, but just by men, especially.
Well, yeah, that's how the oppressor does, right?
But there's a group of women who would have judged her harshly as well, I think,
Yeah, because it's like I said, it depends. If you're looking at it as, all right, this guy's getting what he deserves, then that's one thing. But if you just strip all that away and just look at the pure actions, then you're like, wait a minute. I don't know if it becomes any more harsher. Maybe that if it's only one-sided, then we just see a double standard, right?
Yes.
Or playing into the double standards and assuming that it's okay if men do it, right? Because some people may be like, oh, if you point out that the woman done it, then then you're adhering to double standards, even though in the moment that's not the topic of discussion, and vice versa, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I just think that most people, they look at their own interests and what they're into, and then they're going to argue for that
true.
and against the other thing.
That's true.
Yeah.
And then what about like the power dynamics? Because we cannot forget that Jacqueline is Marcus's boss. She is his boss, his direct boss, not like somebody on a higher level. Like this is clearly who HR was not called. It was 1992 and nobody is going to HR.
Like, I'm going to HR.
Did y'all get training on this? Because this is just unacceptable. Like you just boning your boss. Like, nah, this can't be going down like that. And
no, it's the other way. You're inferior. What's the better word?
Well, I think it's both ways.
Subordinate.
It's a bad idea both ways, but definitely not your subordinate, right? But what about the fact that this does happen? And if it was a man who was doing it, I think that they would have, it would have been like, nah, he got to go.
But see, that's one of the positive double standards, right? This is what people
are going to jail for right now. This is what they're prosecuting people for today in 2025, that back in 1992, they had did some things.
Well, until you have your equality, then you just have to just not look at that the same, right? That's part of the double standard.
Okay.
It's like, all right, she did it, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's very crazy, but that's how it just happens with all of these things. I don't know. It's very hard to break down these double standards and just these gender roles that have just been around for so long. And they may shift over time and change a little bit, but yeah, I don't know.
Was it unprofessional? Go to the comments, go to the chat. Were they being unprofessional?
The first thing was, so that happened, but then you had Angela and Jacqueline who were talking about it in the office.
And
she was like, ooh, you did it, wasn't blah, blah. I heard this and that, right? And then he comes in, hey, babe. Baby. So, like, all of this is, what is going on? Like, we can't be the black people in there doing that, yo.
But we do have to remember, and somebody in the chat also said it, but we do have to remember that Jacqueline was not trying to be exclusive. She was willing to serve him up to whomever because she didn't care about him. She was like, hey, Stranger, you want some of that? Let me just go ahead and go to the bathroom so you could talk and make your play. And, he is to be used like that because he played himself that way. Remember, he got with Lady Eloise, who is who was Eartha Kitt's character, who he thought was the head of the company, but she had no real power, not for the last decade or two, right? And so he wound up, because she was interested
trying to sleep
in him.
His way to the top.
She was out there, Marcus, dog. Next thing you know, the lights went out, and he was, getting some octogenarian cooch. You know what I'm saying?
What? I don't even know that word, y'all.
She was 80-something years old. Maybe she was 70.
What?
But
octogenarian, what?
But you know what I'm saying? So she went and she just, you know what I'm saying? She knew how to play that. And what was so funny was how her butler knew what the deal was. He was over there. He was like, oh, okay, whatever. Then she sees him in the office and she's still doing. So Jacqueline knew that he was slanging it. So
Man,
she said,
I'm going to use. Oh,
she
know
knew.
That.
She knew. She knew when she saw, she knew Lady Eloise's.
She knows she always sexually harassing somebody.
Yes.
But that don't mean she get what she want.
Why wouldn't she?
I don't know.
Why wouldn't she? Because the first thing Marcus did was come up to her talking crazy. Oh, I had to stop you. You're the most beautiful thing I've seen all day. You know lines when you hear it. You know lines when you see it. You know that these are lines. And so somebody who is astute at manipulation is Jacqueline, because she's observant. She knew, oh, okay, Lady Eloise. And he even didn't want to admit it. He was like, you have no proof that yeah, she knew. She knew Lady Eloise had hit that. You are at this point, Marcus, a pass around. And just a male one. And so so when Strange was like, hey, I'd like to hit that, then hey, what does she do? She's like, sure thing. Let me just run to the powder room. And that's why Strange was so mad, because everybody knew, because Marcus is now falling for Jacqueline, and he's trying to be all, contrary to who he's been prior to this point, But yeah. So, yeah, Marcus was all just twisted. He was just down bad behind Jacqueline. But back to the whole idea of professionalism and these personal relationships. Like, Marcus was unprofessional too, because he was willing to go after and sling for whatever. He didn't want to get with Lady Eloise, but he did it because, he was trying to get a leg up in his business. So, he put himself out there that way. But these professional lines were definitely blurred. They definitely were.
Blurred. I don't know. I think they were just crossed.
Well, they were blurry to begin with, right?
Were they?
I think because you have people who, okay, number one, I think they're blurry because in any time it's sales and marketing, you have people who are presenting illusions to begin with.
Yeah.
And these are just the kind of things. It's like, the used car salesman at the lowest level, so just imagine when it's very sophisticated. It's probably not unlike Washington.
Yeah. So they should just be open about it. They're like, yeah, if I slang this on you, would y'all go with my agency? Mm-hmm. Can I get the commercial?
Mm-hmm. And I mean, he just was polite and didn't ask the question.
Yeah.
And maybe if he had asked the question, she probably would have said yes, of course, but she still didn't have any power to make it happen. Selah says the entire office was gossiping about Marcus. The entire staff was wild. They were, but that's what happens at jobs, right? This is look, on every job, there will be gossip. And it's the people at the top, I think, who set the culture of the company. But when you got somebody in executive positions that's talking about the dangalang slang, then how can you expect anybody else to be professional? They're sitting there.
Well, because you have the other part of it that I'm assuming it's a white company, right? So then you got that kinship of, being black at the companies too.
So it's interesting because we never actually see like the CEO of the company.
Right.
Exactly.
I just assume it is 92.
But everybody there is black.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, no. I take that back. Yes, we do. Because near the end, when Jacqueline is trying to re-ensnare Marcus, she gets him to come. And then they talk to some people who are from Paris or whatever.
Yeah, Paris.
And he's speaking French and they are white and they're on the elevator. So these are the people back from the home company or whatever.
Yeah.
The Lady Eloise company back in Paris.
But so that's the thing too. Like, so you may have these friendships that you probably shouldn't be having, right? Just for the simple fact that we come from similar backgrounds. So, yeah.
But the companies did merge. So Lady Eloise, that's one company. But then the company that Marcus already was working for is another company. Maybe they were, majority black or whatever. Because, I mean, you had the mailroom black people. You had all the black people who were upstairs that were the, everybody there seemed to be black, mostly anyway. It was, it was interesting when you look at all of that dynamic as well. I just wanted to jump in here to encourage you to join our free Patreon tier. Yes, we have premium paid memberships on Patreon and YouTube channel members who get exclusive content, early releases, and other perks. But we are now also offering a free Patreon membership tier where you will get videos that are not offered to the general public on YouTube. For example, we just dropped a 3.5-hour watch party for the new Luther Never Too Much documentary on our free tier where you get to watch the full movie along with us in our commentary. If you like what you see, you can join one of our paid membership tiers later, or you can just remain as a free member with no strings attached. This free Patreon membership does not give you access to all of the paid exclusive content and early releases that our premium Patreon and YouTube channel members enjoy, but we wanted a way to offer you a better viewing experience without many of the restrictions that we have on this platform. So come on over and join us on Patreon. The link is in the description. It's easy and free to join. You can simply log in with your Google or existing social media accounts and begin enjoying Axiom Amnesia's Patreon. Now back to the show. So let us turn to kind of what happens. So we see that Marcus and Jacqueline, they hooked up and whatever. Marcus is chasing Jacqueline around like a dog, and it's affecting his work. It's affecting his work like a puppy dog, I should have said. And it's affecting his work. And Angela, who's Halle Berry, she sees this, and she's, just a sweet, nice chick who will kiki, and gossip a little bit, but she has a heart, right? And so what we see in the film, though, is Angela and Jacqueline kind of representing these contrasting archetypes of the romantic partners. Jacqueline is calculated, she's confident, and Angela is warm and she's more sincere, and they just seem like they represent these opposing views within the relationships, right? And so both of these women, though, they do have a significant impact on Marcus's evolution and journey through the film. So to get more into what happens between Angela and Marcus, so Marcus is down bad behind Jacqueline. Angela sees this and she's like, okay, well, let me help you. Let me show you these little kids that I go and I do art classes for and all these other things. Plus, she's an artist, which just kind of makes her more earthy in a way, just more in touch with feelings and, all those things. So that profession really seemed to fit well with her personality as opposed to this cold executive, right? But I got a question for you.
For me?
Yes. How do you think that these two how do you think these two women, how different they were, influenced Marcus's perception of like love and, what does it say about his character development in the film?
But I think that it took Jacqueline for him to go to Angela, right? So because the love should have brought you home last night, right, was kind of, I'm doing this lady wrong. He didn't get that from Jacqueline. He got it because it was happening to him. So it primed him for the next relationship, even though all of them were wrong. But
yeah,
it primed him. So that's basically in a nutshell how they affected him. But I don't know if Angela really affected him that much besides being there and him liking her after being mistreated and wanting to be somebody who didn't treat him like that. Right?
Paris said that Angela used the affecting his work excuse to insert herself into the situation. And I'm glad Jackie called her on it. Well, because Jackie saw what was happening too at the same time. But the thing is, I think also because Jackie and Angela worked together already. They came from the other company. They knew each other.
Yeah.
So she knows what kind of person, each of them know what kind of person the other one is already.
Well, so the thing is that I think Angela was doing the right thing, right? And okay, you're basically the boss, right? And you messing with this dude or you messing with whoever on the job and it's affecting the work, right? So I don't know.
Well, she's saying it was true that it was affecting the work, but I think it was also
she was already inserted
that
though.
she was a different type of person.
They were sitting around talking about it before,
but
right?
But we all know these different people. So there'll be a guy who's obviously for the streets, right? But there's always the nice girl who just finds him endearing or falls for the line or whatever and is falling for him, where the rest of the girls would have just, been treated him like he deserved based on his behavior. But then you have the Angela. But at the same time, Angela was naive in some ways, but Angela was also trying to get her, piece of the pie too, at the expense of Gerard, who... Gerard was kind of like failure to thrive because while he did have the moral high ground, bro, she was right there interested. You remember when they went on the date? He wouldn't even ask what to have for dinner. Like, she was there for hours and they never ate because he couldn't decide. Like, so this was we can get to that more later, but like, this was the issue. So, but I do think that Marcus, like you said, it forced him to learn how it felt to be on the receiving end of the treatment that he had been given to all these other women, and he didn't like it. But the other question I have is, was Marcus's supposed growth, was it genuine? Do you think he really grew by the end of the film, or he just figured out how to get what he wanted?
I don't think he grew. I just think he changed a little bit, right? It may have been a lateral movement where he went from, because we back to what happened after this, right?
Yeah.
The thing was, he got done wrong. He was feeling bad, but he was already just trying to get this chick, right? So now he got her. So his behavior is rewarded. Maybe you just change tactics now.
He just decided this was the one he wanted. He just decided, I want one girl for now.
He didn't decide that. He was with Jacqueline. He was with Angela, went back to Jacqueline, came back to Angela. And that's basically how the movie ended.
Yes. And so if I say what happens after the camera stopped rolling, like, do they have a successful relationship? I think eventually Marcus starts being who Marcus has been. And he just gets better at lying to Angela. Like, I think he does right for a while, but I think that the praise that he got from being adored and admired by women is something that probably just would be too great for him to turn down in the future. Although he had left that job, there will always be another Jacqueline. There will always be another Layla Rashawn's character, somebody who catches his eye. Even in the last scene, she said, if you turn and you look at her, I'm going to do whatever. He was like, I wasn't looking at her. So that already lets you know, like, come on, the way he says it, he's going to try to be good, but he is who he is. He just is who he is. I just kind of shake my head at it. But I also go back to the person in the comments who said he basically got everything in the end. And I hate that. I hate that I wanted them to get together. I hate that I ignored how Angela kind of stomped on Gerard's heart in a way, or what they did together was kind of foul, in favor of saying that only Marcus was wrong. And making Jacqueline the villain. Because let's talk about it. Was Jacqueline really the villain? Did Jacqueline make promises to anybody?
See, but it does
or not.
It doesn't matter if you make a promise or not, right? That's part of the tactic. Is to
go to the chat.
You always plausible deniability.
True. Go to
every
the chat.
Every time that term comes out, I think of that dude.
I have to say, because this is the whole plausible deniability thing, because it is related. There's gossip on. In the job, there are people doing inappropriate things that they shouldn't be doing. Other. Yes, to each other,
on each other, in each.
Shut up. So that's Marcus and Angela. So when I look at whether Marcus is redeemed, I don't think Marcus is redeemed. I think he just decided he wanted someone and figured out how to get him. I don't think it's because he brought the kids and everything, right? The kids she used to teach, and he appealed to her, and she just was like, yes. And he was like, oh, I can't breathe without you, and that was the end of the movie. They kissed and it was all good. And she said, this time I'm not moving in with you. You don't say? Girl, get it together. So that's what happens. But let's also talk about the betrayal, because Marcus had betrayed a few people in this movie. Let's also talk about Marcus. Well, first, before we talk about Marcus and his friends, let's talk about the ad that had the cherry and the banana.
Bruh.
And they're like, kiss, 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 kiss me once, kiss me twice. That's like the song. And I don't know why that song stuck with me, but it must have been really good marketing, because they had this guy who always came up with something kind of nasty to do.
Nelson.
Yes. And so he's the ad guy, and it just completely goes off the rails because Marcus would keep this guy in check. He'd be like, all right, you could keep this, but you got to lose the banana and the cherries. Because, it was like this woman and she's like dangling the cherries in front of her face, kind of the way that you saw Usher doing the people who were coming to his concert. You know what I'm saying? Oh, and to bring it full circle, Halle Bailey was somebody who they did this to.
Bruh.
or he did this to. Handed her the cherries at the concert with her man there. But anyway, so yeah, it's just funny. Marlon Bellamy says that Marcus and Jacqueline were totally unprofessional. Yeah, they were, but like in 1992, who were they telling? Who was telling? You know, so
who's trying to be a sellout on a job?
Nobody. Everybody's just trying to get paid. But what do y'all think about the dynamic between the women, though? Between Angela and Jacqueline? Because clearly Jacqueline decided to throw a monkey wrench in the plans when she saw that Angela was starting to be happy with Marcus. She said, let me show you how I could slang this over here and take your man.
Yeah, see, so that's her just doing wrong, right?
That is.
Without just so-called making a promise. I don't know. I just think that that's the type of person she is. So I think what they do is you have these so-called high-powered characters, right, in these certain positions. Then you just in a cutthroat world. So you tend to have the characteristics or personality of somebody who just don't give a fuck about nobody. And that's just it, right? I cut whoever throat I want, get what I want, do what I want. I feel an itch, Marcus gonna scratch it, and that's it. That's, you know what I'm saying? And I don't care. You one of my underlings anyway. You do what I do. Go get me some coffee.
Yeah.
Keep them warm for me. Keep them happy.
That's basically how it
you
seems
gotta
to
keep
go
three
down.
women. One to
the quoting from this song. I forgot.
Dang, I just looked it up.
So Paris says Jacqueline boomeranged Angela. Angela swooped in and got with Marcus behind Jackie's back and then got that boomerang right back. But then it came back around for her again. That boomerang might keep hitting Angela because I'm not convinced. Like, we just saw a moment in time where they were happy for a second, but like, let's just go down a year down the line. Angela's gonna have to make a decision of whether she accepts Marcus like he is, which means he's gonna be stepping out.
A year? I didn't think it's gonna last a year.
Okay, 6 months, whatever. where he's gonna be stepping out.
So did he move in with her already? Because love should have brought you home. Like, why y'all move in so fast?
She moved in with him.
She ain't have nowhere to go?
She had a place.
Why she move over there?
Because she just was in love and her nose was wide open.
She was in love after about a day.
But see, think about it. She was in love before she even ever closed the deal because she was starting to like him. And she was like, oh, let me bring you by the kids and, get you out this depression. And Jackie is doing you so wrong.
And then she just showed up with suitcases.
After she washed them dishes, she said, now I cleaned the kitchen.
That YouTuber said that they showed up with suitcases. Did you hear that part of the story?
No.
Okay, y'all, this is YouTuber. You probably heard about him by now, Corey Pritchett, right? He was telling the story of the girls who he, getting charged for. He said... we're going to go bowling and whatever. They came out with suitcases. I don't know why that's so funny. It's supposed to just be going over for a day or a night.
So rich,
and they came out with, it's supposedly like they were trying to move in or, something, but they came with suitcases. But that's what Angela did. She was like, come on over. And she just rolled up. She had one of those early 90s suitcases. She had to carry it. And it was that hard, that hard plastic. That's how Angela showed up.
Yep. And then I'm looking at the chat here. Nita is over here saying Angela was just a conquest. Marcus went to her job to win her back because she was fed up. Yeah, I agree. She was like a conquest to him. Like, she was no different than the rest of these women, except that she piqued his interest for a slightly bit longer, but I don't think she was nearly as interesting and challenging as Jacqueline was to him. And then maybe whoever said this in the comments was right, that he just kind of wanted to get the dig back at Jacqueline, which is why when he was going back to lay up with her after Angela had left him, he's like, well, if you in love with her, Why are you with me is what Jacqueline said. And he's like, exactly. And then he gets out like he's on a mic drop. But in reality, like, yeah, bro, if you really did love her, why are you sitting up here with this woman? And why are you just now having this epiphany? It's just, come on, why are you that, like, I don't even know, infantile in your, emotions?
What about Yolanda?
Which one? The next door
Tisha
neighbor,
Campbell.
Tisha. Oh yes, we haven't even talked about Tisha Campbell. So this is the other thing that I was like, okay, Marcus might have been real good at manipulating people, but he slept with his neighbor, and I feel like a real true player would have never done this because he's bringing women back to his house, and he don't want this lady to be yelling across his back, yard, but seeing he's doing.
Well, he's clearly not good at it, right? Because you have to do it in a way where they, quote, don't catch feelings that way, right? Yeah. What'd I say, Yvette? I said Yolanda.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yvonne.
I typed Yolanda. I was reading Yvonne. but yeah, so you have to do it in a way where it's clear, right? I'm a player. You ain't getting nothing. It's probably harder to say it than to do it, right? But that's just how it's supposed to be, which points to that he done something wrong, because maybe there's this thing of leading someone on, right?
Yeah.
And that's just his I was about to say modus operandi or something.
Modus operandi.
operandi.
Yeah.
But that's just the way he works, right? He leads them on to this level. Hey, I'm in love with you and blah, blah, blah. And there's going to be a future. Right, because that's what I get from Yvonne.
Was still trying to get some, so she ain't innocent either. Because remember, she said she left you, didn't she? You want to come over for some coffee? And he was like, nah. But the thing is, he had to take out a whole restraining order on her because of what she was doing. Like, come on. But yeah, I just think that was like a rookie error. Like, who would actually, like, if you're just thinking about it, why would you casually deal with somebody that you're not trying to have? Why would you deal with your neighbor ever? Just not a good idea. Just not a good idea.
Yeah. So, but we get back to what somebody was talking about in the beginning about how he ended up with everything.
And he really did. He gets the woman. Presumably his career still was good. He just wasn't at that job, which means he's no longer under Jacqueline. He, and he doesn't have to share his house. So when he goes back to his cheating ways, then he could bring those women right onto his house. It'll be fine because Angela doesn't live with him anymore. Just perfect for him.
Yeah, it's very terrible. But so Angela is supposed to be like, oh, you're this good girl, right? It's the good girl, desirable one out of the lot, who the good guy Gerard, could have got with or was supposed to get with. But then the bad guy still ends up on top with the good girl, right? So
maybe that's
happy
just
ending.
the lesson of life is that nobody is really good.
We don't want them type of story. We don't want realistic endings to stories.
No. But
we want the fairy
is
tale.
really
I guess this
good.
is the fairy tale.
The fairy tale is that the bad guy gets the good girl.
Marcus didn't really lose anything. He gets Angela, makes up with Gerard, and even gets to reject Jacqueline one more time.
Yeah. Paris says Angela is the one who thinks she can change Marcus, shaking my head. Kaysen says, but it was realistic ending, I think is what's being referred to here.
Yeah.
And Nita says, Yvonne saw all of those women coming through and felt like she was missing out. But Nita, Yvonne had already had a taste. That's what had her fiending. And I think that when Jacqueline was talking to me, she was like, oh, and he is good, So I do think that he had a way with women. And if you got a taste, this is why you was calling. But this is why all those women were calling back. They wanted to, revisit that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know, Kaysen, really, is it realistic? Is it? I don't know. Maybe not in 2025 because things are going down differently now.
Yeah, I know. But is the Marcus character, quote, settling down? Maybe he does get into the relationship with someone like Angela. And is that what he was doing? Right? We have this perspective where we think he's a player, but with the Yvonne character, it makes it look like this is what I do. And that's what he wanted with Jacqueline, right? To make you my woman. You know, so there's kind of this thing where it's like, did you really make it clear who this guy was? Because all you get is the friend or looking like women like him, right?
I don't think he's settling down. Because
I'm saying like, but at the time you go from relationship to relationship, like somebody who married 6 times, right? And that's kind of different. Then he's just playing around with everybody all the time, right? Because he had Yvonne, he was trying to get Jacqueline, and he ended up with Angela. And I don't think that's necessarily a happily ever after. It's more of the cycle of what he do anyway.
I think that a guy like Marcus would do one of 2 things. One, if he married at that age, he's still playing. And just gonna continue to play, but he's doing it as a strategic move for whatever. Maybe it looks good for his job, maybe, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think more likely you see these perpetual bachelors and then he gets to be around 65 or 70. And then he's like, well, I'm looking for a sweet young thing who might be about 35, somewhere in there. And then he settles down for her. But I don't even know if he's really settled or if he's just like, yeah, my playtime is over. I don't know, though. Y'all in the comments tell me.
We ain't getting no younger. We might as well do it.
I know. Meet me at the altar in your white dress. And I mean, we look around. I was looking at, not that this is an example, but I was looking at some pictures of Nelly and Ashanti, and somebody was showing a picture of them from back in the day when they used to date and how it was some sunset they were watching or whatever. And she had reposted this talking about, back then we watched the sunset or whatever. And here we are 20 years later and we're married and we have a son now. And I was just thinking to myself, girl, you like in the nick of time, because it almost wasn't gonna happen, and then it kind of was on the skids from the beginning. Like you waited for this dude for like 20 years while he went and did whatever.
Yeah,
I just don't know
because she was over there getting tossed up by Irv Gotti.
Shut up.
That's what happened.
Irv Gotti was before him, though.
You sure?
Nita is in the comments talking about bow wow wow yippee yo yippee. Yeah, well, what, we got to acknowledge like other songs from the soundtrack, because they were talking about how good that was. One of the first things we talked about was how good this soundtrack was. And TLC was on the soundtrack, and they had done, I guess, a sample from that is George Clinton, right? Where Reversal of the Dog.
Oh, I thought the actual song was on there.
Well, I think it opens with George Clinton talking about, this is the story of a dog, and if a dog chases tail, then he's gonna get dizzy, or something he says at the beginning. I don't remember. But, yeah. And Whitney says A Tribe Called Quest too. So, yeah.
And the Feels Like Heaven song. The acapella. That was up in there.
So, but there was just, the music on here, just amazing. I just got to say, Babyface knew what was up with who he got to do this soundtrack, and for the songs he actually wrote himself. But yeah, like there's so much that you could talk about with the movie Boomerang, but the biggest thing is just the little bit of instant gratification as a woman that I remember, a young woman watching this, that I remember, a barely woman, that I remember feeling just kind of some level of vindication, like finally a story where, the woman gets the upper hand. But when you look at the ending story, I don't know how much of a success you say Angela's situation is. I don't know.
Yeah, you just got to cut it off right there and be like, oh, everything's fine.
That's it. But oh my gosh, Paris has a question. Does Angela still get with Marcus if Strange hits? Yes, Angela gets with Marcus if he hit the entire, first floor of the building. Yes, Angela still gets,
because she had low self-esteem.
No, I just think she thinks that she actually, nobody understands him, and I can touch him in a way that no one, she's one of those. So I don't think anything is ever gonna, because she's strange, and they said we gonna make it French.
Bruh, Grace Jones was known for being strange.
Mm-hmm.
That's nothing compared to some people we see today.
Paris said, I think so too, y'all. Yes, Paris, we know. We know that she would have been. Angela was just going. Angela wanted that man when Angela decided. So, they deserve each other, I guess. Oh, Kaysen says Angela was a fixer. She was a fixer.
Huh.
She probably did think she could fix him. But man, she's just tearing her heart up in the process of trying. Demona says Angela is really the same as Jackie. She kind of thought that she was better than Jackie, in my opinion, but they definitely had similar traits, just different approach. So I want to first say about what she thinks she was better. People who feel that they are morally superior will always think that they're better than other people. It just goes with the territory, right? Which is why people do things like virtue signaling and, we don't do that kind of things, right? Because that is part of them feeling better. This is why
whatever
Alice,
you have, right, is what you're going to, quote, use.
Yes. And, but whether she's the same as Jackie, that's a good question in my mind. They might have done some of the same things, but is their motive the same? I got to think about that for a second, because.
Motive in what aspect?
But so I think that Angela wanted Marcus. Jacqueline did not want Marcus. Jacqueline just was using Marcus.
Was Angela too? Because she could probably move up too, right?
No, I think her motive was
like get next to him like Boney.
This man. I love this man and I want this man. And so her motive was that she loved and wanted that man damn near at any cost, right? Because we know he really ain't changed. Just make sure you're subscribed to all of the channels in the description. We so appreciate the people who just watch the videos, the people who are our patrons and people who are our channel members and one-time donors, everybody, because it helps to keep this thing going. So, we're just grateful for everybody who just wants to come and have a conversation with us and finds us interesting enough to stick around to the end. So, we just appreciate everybody for that and always want to never forget to thank you guys for that.
If you made it this far, go ahead and type there's going to be a future in the comments so we'll know you're one of the real ones who stick around to the end.
And be sure to check out one of the videos that's on the screen right now. Don't forget to check out axiom.app. That's axiom, AXAM.app, so that you can see all of our recent videos across all of our channels in one place with links back to YouTube so you can watch them on here and enjoy them.